Frank steps up. Hit as he throws. It falls incomplete, and they catch a break. 4 seconds left. Mark Stoops is saying it was a fumble. They have not whistled it dead, and they will get it down to the goal line. And now the line judge says touchdown, Kentucky. Unbelievable.
Wilkins taking a shot for Harry. He's got it. Touchdown, ASU. That is a grown man. Now it's up to Brandon Reese, sophomore from Gilbert, who originally committed to Alabama, to give Arizona State the win. Snap is good. That's it.
Clemson as well. The rush in the corners. Farrell almost gets mine. And to the middle. Was it caught? Touchdown! Touchdown, Kendrick Rogers! Mine rolling. Farrell after him. There's a flag. Mine's got to throw it, and it's intercepted. Kayvon Wallace this time holds on to it, and there's going to be a hold called. Offense. Penalties decline. Point is no good. Farrell was after mine all night long, and Clemson goes on the road and beats Texas A&M by a deuce.
Morning, everybody. Flashjordan here. We are back for week 3 of the college football season. Not presented by Charles Schwab. I don't really know much about them. All I see is stuff about investing. So I don't know. You probably can't do anything, with money and Charles Schwab. I have no idea what they're about. But anyway, week 3 of the college football season is coming up soon, and week 2 is fantastic. A lot of history was made. Ohio State became the second team in history to reach 900 wins, and a streak was ended on Saturday night. Kentucky beat Florida by a score of 27-16, ending the 31-year drought that they had against Florida. 31 in a row. That is insane.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Team with the second longest current active win streak was finally ended over a 2-season course.
Yes,
Northwestern Wildcats lost to Duke by 14 points, thus ending that streak.
And now who has the second longest win streak?
Probably Northern Texas.
Totally, yeah. Anyway, let's get back to our second segment of our biggest surprises from this past week. Obviously, to start off, Florida losing to Kentucky was surprising for me, but honestly, the way Florida's been playing these last couple of years, it honestly didn't really surprise me that much to see Kentucky get the win there. Arizona State beat Michigan State. That was a bit of a surprise, but again, with the way Michigan State played week 1, I could have seen that coming. Probably the most surprising thing, though, was the way Georgia dominated South Carolina. A lot of people were thinking that, since Georgia lost a lot to the draft, this may be a questionable game for them, but they dominated South Carolina and ended up winning 41-17, making that collision, seemingly, the collision course with Bama that much more hyped up, essentially. So that's my biggest surprise from week 1. What do you got for me? Or week 2, not week 1. I don't know why.
Yeah, week 2. I just really thought that it was one of those weeks that was kind of ho-hum for me. I thought teams that won should have, and teams that had really close games like Iowa State, Iowa. I mean, that's kind of but I mean, it was a pretty good week. I mean, I wasn't really surprised by anything except for the Kentucky over Florida win. That one shocked me.
Yeah. Let's get into our reaction to the new AP poll that was released on Sunday afternoon. A couple of big changes, obviously. Florida is gone. South Carolina gone. Michigan State dropped 10 spots down to number 25. And that's really it for the huge changes, I guess. Stanford moved up one. Penn State got up a couple now. I mean, Boise State, I will say, Boise State and UCF at 17 and 18, that's pretty impressive. Boise State has a big game this week, which we'll talk about soon. But Arizona State is now ranked after their win against Michigan State. That's pretty interesting. USC dropping 5, so I don't really have too many problems this week with the AP poll, except for the fact that I don't know why Oklahoma had to hop Wisconsin, but whatever. That's my only issue, but other than that, I'm fine with it.
Well, Wisconsin played a pretty crumb team and didn't do very well.
True.
So, I mean, that's enough right there for, the poll voters, I think.
And let's get on to the meat and potatoes of this segment, as I like to call it, the picks for the upcoming week. This time it is week 3. A lot of interesting games this week, and I have a lot of interesting picks as I made them earlier today. As you know, we do this in chronological order. You just left. Your camera's not showing. The number 5 Oklahoma Sooners at the Iowa State Cyclones. Now remember, last year Iowa State won at Oklahoma. This year, I don't know if Iowa State has that same magic coming off the loss to Iowa. Their offense didn't look great. I think Oklahoma's going to win this one. It may be close for about 3 quarters, but I feel like Oklahoma's going to pull away in the end. The Sooners get the victory.
I tend to disagree with you on how close the game will be for how long. I believe that Oklahoma's going to win this game at Iowa State. Sure, we've pinned Iowa State as giant killers in the last 5 years, but Oklahoma is going to take this one away. Iowa State has yet to win a game, so they don't have anything coming in this game.
And a quick reminder on the status of our records so far this year. I went 8-2 last week, and you went 6-4 last week, which is the flip-flop of what happened in week 1. So we are tied at 14-6 so far this year. So maybe this week could get some gapping between us. Next game we have here, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at the Pittsburgh Panthers. Now, Georgia Tech, both of these teams are coming off a loss. Georgia Tech lost to South Florida last week. Pitt's coming off a loss to Penn State in a game where they were only down by 8 at halftime. But by golly, Penn State put it on them in the second half, winning 51-6. I'm going to pick Georgia Tech to win this game. Triple Ops is going to come in, get another win at Pitt. Pitt's going to fall to 1-2.
I have the Yellow Jackets winning too. This one's just sheer gut feeling. After watching Pitt versus Penn State, I don't think they have what it takes because that's their big game of the year. If they could beat Penn State, they got a lot going for them. But nope, not an early loss like that.
The next game we have here, the Vanderbilt Commodores at the number 8 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Vanderbilt is kind of like the Northwestern of the SEC. They're great academically, but when it comes to athletics, they're not. Actually, I mean, Northwestern's been pretty good the last decade, but Vanderbilt has not, obviously. But anyway, we're not talking about that. Notre Dame coming off a very close game against Ball State, only winning that game by 8. So that made me a little bit more hesitant to pick them in this game, but I am going to pick the Fighting Irish.
I'm going with the Fighting Irish too. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you had $100 to put on Vanderbilt or Notre Dame, which one would you put the money on? I'm going to put it on Notre Dame every time.
The next game we have here is the number 12 LSU Tigers at the number 7 Auburn Tigers. This is arguably the game of the week, but it's not where game day will be. LSU coming off that big win against Miami in week 1, and Auburn also had a big week 1 victory against Washington. So both of these teams looking pretty good up to this point. I am going to pick Auburn, though, in the Battle of the Tigers. I just feel like they're a more complete team, and I'm still a little worried about Joe Burrow, LSU's quarterback, the Ohio State transfer. It's his first huge test, I guess. It's his first road test. I am going to pick Auburn to win this one.
That's probably a pretty good pick. I picked them as well. Of course, I'm only good for about 70 to 80% each week. So this is definitely a game I just would choose not to bet on. I just wouldn't put any money on it. But if money was no object, I'd go Auburn here. Why? Because they're at home. Why? Because if there's a team that's going to beat Alabama this year, it's going to be these guys.
Maybe. The next game we have here, this was a tough one for me. This one took me a lot of thinking. The number 17 Boise State Broncos at the number 24 Oklahoma State Cowboys. This one will be a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. And I am picking Boise State to beat Oklahoma State. The Big 12 doesn't play defense. We all know that. And Boise State has been, non-arguably, they've definitely been the best Group of 5 team of the past decade. They're going to go into Stillwater and beat the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Boise State Broncos will.
Whoa. Not so fast. I think that those Mike Gundy boys can get in the root of those stinking Broncos. What's the difference? These Cowboys are going to stay on these Broncos for 8 seconds, and they're going to win the game. I think we're going to have a lot of Boise State Bluefield fan fanatics crying because, look, Oklahoma State, this is going to be one of those years where when Oklahoma plays Oklahoma State, that might be who's going to be in the college football playoffs from the Big 12 if one of them can go undefeated.
I'm not as confident in Oklahoma State as you are, but I am confident in this next Big 12 team, the number 14.
2011 Oklahoma State Cowboys, did they not deserve to be in? You need to watch that if you never
They did,
have.
but that's a separate issue. Next, we have my pick for the Big 12 championship at the beginning of the year. The number 14 West Virginia Mountaineers at the NC State Wolfpack. I think West Virginia goes in and gets a victory. Now, it might be closer than you think. North Carolina State has a great quarterback in Ryan Finley, but I do think the Mountaineers get this win.
The thing about NC State is they've only played James Madison, who, I mean, they're good in FCS. They make it to playoffs all the time. And then you got Georgia State. They're also, and so have they really played a good, I don't know. Maybe this West Virginia will be like the test to know if they can beat West Virginia. That'd be great, but I don't think it's going to happen with Bluebird.
The next game we have here, we'll save to the end. The next game, the number 22 USC Trojans at the Texas Longhorns. This one also took a little bit of thinking, but I am going to pick Texas to win this game over the Trojans. The Trojans coming off a horrible offensive performance against the Stanford Cardinal, and I think the Longhorns get back on the winning track and beat USC.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
No.
Of all the picks that you could have made, this is the worst one. Texas, look, can you answer me this one question?
What?
Who did Texas beat?
I don't know.
They played Tulsa and won by 7. And they lost to, first week,
Maryland.
yes, of all the schools. So, I'm not going to sit here and bash your picks. Yeah, I am. Texas is going to get smashed by USC. And the reason being, I don't want to belabor this issue because neither school deserves more than 5 seconds of my time. They lost to number 10 Stanford, okay, by 14 points. That's not great, but they smashed UNLV by more than double UNLV scores. They should be able to go in and beat Texas easily.
The next game we have here, the number 10 Washington Huskies at the Utah Utes. Now, Utah played at Northern Illinois last week, and Northern Illinois was winning, I think, for a lot of that time, which makes me very hesitant to pick the upset here, and I am going to go the Huskies to beat the Utes.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. I mean, Utah is, again, they're kind of like the academic school in a Power 5 conference. They might not win the championship once every 5 years, but they're going to beat some good teams. They're going to be ranked in the top 25 sometimes. The Huskies, how did they stay number 10? That's a whole topic for a whole, you know what I'm saying? They lost to Auburn, I understand. Then they come back and they just 45-3. Still going Huskies here. I'm going to pick Huskies.
The next game we have here, the Fresno State Bulldogs at the UCLA Bruins. Now, UCLA has had a horrible start to the year, and I don't think it's going to get any better this week. I know you're really high on Fresno State pretty much every year, and I'm gonna follow your footsteps here. I'm picking the Bulldogs to beat the Bruins. Chip Kelly starts 0-3 at UCLA this year.
Well, any team that can score 80 points on another Division I FBS team, such as like Idaho Vandals, I mean, they're nobody, right? But they scored 80 points on them in the first week, and then they barely lost to Minnesota.
Yeah. At
Minnesota. So, I mean, they should stomp UCLA. And get this, right? So, UCLA has played how many games?
Dose.
They played 2 games. And they lost. Doesn't matter. I'm picking Fresno State. I got them. We'll save the explanation.
And the final game of the week, College Game Day, will be there. The number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes against the number 15 TCU Horned Frogs. Now this is basically a TCU home game. It's in their backyard in Arlington, where this game will be where the Cowboys play. Fort Worth is only like 10 miles away from this stadium, so I mean it's a TCU home game. That being said, Ohio State is going to blow TCU out of the water, send them back home to Fort Worth. 45-24 is my score prediction. Dwayne Haskins throws 4 touchdowns. That defense absolutely shuts down the Horned Frogs for the first 3 quarters, and then they might get a couple garbage time touchdowns. But other than that, Ohio State blows out TCU.
What are we playing here? Xbox? Here's the thing. Urban Meyer has not been allowed to coach. It's not really hurt the Buckeyes because they've not played anybody. But when they play a team that's got an offensive power like this and a defense that swarms to the ball like TCU, they're probably going to be stunned. And I'm not sure that their fill-in head coach is going to know what to do under some pressure. But Ohio State will probably end up being 9-3, 10-2, and they'll probably play in the championship game. And they're going to be a 2-loss team. And look, man, just good luck. I got TCU winning this game, not because I don't like Ohio State, because I think this is the year TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma's going to get into the college football playoff championship and do some damage.
So you genuinely believe that TCU is going to win this game? Like it's not just because.
I am 51% sure that TCU is going to win this game.
51%.
It's the majority, 50.001%. But here's the thing, man. I believe that this is the year for the Big 12 because guess what? Bama's going to have a loss. Ohio State's going to have a loss. Penn State's going to have a loss. Nobody from the Big 12 is going to be any good. And people are going to be like, Big 12's left. I guess they're just as good as everybody else. And the ACC and the Big 12 are going to square up in the college football playoff.
Hot take right there. Well, that'll end our week 3 video for the college football season. This week looks like it can be a fantastic week before conference play starts next week for most teams anyway. Yeah, I got nothing else. Any last words for the people at home?
As I always say, the word later is a much too long of a word to say. So with that, I say, dad out, late.
Wow, okay.